So I'm going to be trying something a little different for this review. Might be a little weird, might even feel a little bit like a lecture, but I figured the easiest way for me to get my thoughts down is to use old-fashioned a PowerPoint presentation, because God knows if I have any fresh ideas in my head. But I wanted to talk about the game Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact is a free-to-play JRPG, action RPG, on PC, mobile, PS4, and sometime in the future, from what I know, Nintendo Switch. This is the first game, or I believe one of the first games of its kind, that has a vast single-player, open-world experience that is shoved into a free title. Now, I heard about Genshin Impact a few years ago, or maybe last year, somewhere in between there, when a nice little convention took place in China, and some guy smashed his PS4 because the game looked like Breath of the Wild with anime characters. And if I'm honest, does it? I don't really... It's at least mildly inspired. It's a little hard to say if the game really is Breath of the Wild, but I'd argue they're very different games. If I showed you these two screenshots side by side, you'd obviously say that's the same, that's a similar game. They're just ripping off Breath of the Wild. But it's got some inspirations, a little bit of everything in it. And I want to talk about the differences in that. So what's the difference between Breath of the Wild and this game? Well, for one, it's free, which is awesome. You get this whole game for free. This whole thing. You don't have to pay for any part if you don't want to. So, that's great. Now, there's gotta be a catch, right? Because you can't just give out something like this for free. Something of this scale, this crazy scale of a game, just for free? Nope. So you wanna know what the thing is? It's a gacha game. Now, for those of you who do not know what a gacha game is, I will explain that in a little while. But I want to keep talking about the game itself first. So, what's the difference? Is it bad that it's a gacha? What is a gacha? Like I said, talk about it later. Is it bad? No. The game content, for free, includes the story, the entire world map, all the side missions, all the daily stuff, everything in the game, the ranking system for your characters to grow, everything's available to you. So, what does the gacha do then? Because it sounds like you've got everything served to you on a silver platter. It restricts access to the playable characters and weapons, and they are tied to an RNG system that costs a specific currency to use. Now, what that means is that you are going to see a page called Wish. When you open that page, you have the ability to essentially use this currency called Primo Gems to get a chance at getting either playable characters or usable weapons. It's complete RNG, which that can turn off a lot of people, because it means you are restricted to specific characters. And I'm going to show you those characters right now. You're given 4 characters for free. The Traveler, on the left, who can appear as either male or female. Amber, a Pyro Archer. Kaya, an Ice Swordsman. And Lisa, a Electric Mage. All 4 of these characters fulfill roles that you will need characters for, or that you will need specific elements for in the open world. What that means is that there are different puzzles that do require certain elements, and majority of the elements are covered by the characters you see here. Gameplay-wise, this game is very different from Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild uses a more slow-paced combat system that isn't too complex, but it can be complex. It requires precise dodge timings and essentially a lot of manipulation of the world around you to fight. Now, what Genshin Impact does instead is that it's a hack and slash RPG. There are multiple weapon types, with each character restricted to a certain weapon. Now, what happens is the different elements that I said could be used to solve puzzles also are used in attacks. Now, you can combine those elemental skills for unique effects on foes. And what I mean by that is that let's say an opponent steps into water, and Kaya uses the ice power that he has. They will freeze. And then when they're frozen, you can hit them again, and they will take extra damage from you shattering the ice on them. You can use ice and electricity to do additional damage. You can use ice and fire to melt. It's a very interesting system that really does a lot without you having to put too much effort into the thought process, I think. There are some times where you will, because certain enemies will have elements that are weaker to certain combinations, or will be immune to certain elements. But it's a very fun battle system that isn't too taxing on your tactics. The open world is pretty much very similar. This is the similarity to Breath of the Wild. It's a large explorable world where you can traverse using gliders and climbing. Sound familiar? Still is. Stamina meter still exists, just like Breath of the Wild. Puzzles to solve scattered around the world, and then dungeons, random events, and quests to complete in order to, make it feel like an RPG. The open world feels a lot like Breath of the Wild. I think the more interesting thing comes from the fact that you have all these characters with unique abilities that interact with the environment in different ways, and that can be used in the same sense that in Breath of the Wild you had stasis and the ice pillar thing, which name escapes me, and the bombs that you could use to interact with the world in different ways. It's a very similar feeling, but I think that's a good thing, because it ultimately makes the game a lot of fun. And it makes kind of discovering the world a lot of fun as well, as there are tons of collectibles scattered through the open world, just like the Korok seeds in Breath of the Wild. Now, as for story, I don't think Genshin Impact does anything spectacular. It's not bad, but it's not something I'd say this is, one of the greatest stories I've ever seen. And currently it's incomplete. The story leaves off on a very weird point, very strange cliffhanger, but that is the nature of these kinds of games. Genshin is going to play the long game with the story, and that means that the game will continue to receive updates as time goes on. The next update for this game is coming out on November 11th. They have a schedule for the next 3 updates, and you're going to get story incremented in each of those updates. It will not be immediate. This isn't a game you sit down and play for hours and hours and hours every single day. This is a game you sit down and play for some hours here and there, and in between each 6-week cycle, the updates will essentially feed you content. But so by the time 6 weeks pass, you'll have finished what I would call the base requirements for the game. You'll finish the content, the update, before the next update comes. Or that's the idea. Now, some of us, like me, will play this game non-stop because I have a serious addiction problem and I need help. But, that means that, of course, this game appeals to my demographic, but also kind of doesn't, because I'm the type of person who loves to play a game immediately when it comes out, and I'm not used to waiting for those updates and coming back to the game. But Genshin is a lot of fun, and I feel like hopefully the story will eventually rope me in, but we'll see about that. Now, additionally, every character has their own missions, these little character episodes, which introduce you to the character, who they are, where they exist in the world, and in some of these you even get a chance to playtest these characters, which will ultimately help you decide whether you want to use your currency to get them from the gacha, if you can. Now, here's the thing. These character episodes seem like they're going to stretch on for a while, and I like that there is a constant flow of them coming in. It makes the characters seem less like quest rewards and more like I exist in this world. I'm a character that exists in this world, and you can get me on your team if you want. And it gives the characters personality, because Genshin does not have a previous IP it's establishing itself off of. It's not like other mobile games you may have seen, Fire Emblem Heroes, Mario Kart Tour, God forbid, but other mobile games actually do have. I don't know if the characters are really in the story, because I don't play that many gacha games, but still, these character episodes really help cement the characters' personalities, and maybe you'll be interested in picking some of them up with your currency, or maybe not. Like me, I'm in lots of pain for not being able to roll the gacha, but we'll worry about that later. Presentation-wise, this game takes on an anime visual style. It's got really nice trail effects on the attacks, and the visual effects really help bring the combat to life. The environments are pretty nice. They're pretty nice, I think overall it looks really nice as a game, whether you play it on mobile or PC or PS4. And the few towns and cities they've shown are very unique in their own ways, and they take elements, from different, like their buildings are different, the architecture. It's very much more intricate than I really thought it was going to be. But that's cool. I enjoyed that a lot. Most of the music is ambient and light on the ears. It's not like hard, like kind of head-bopping music. It's more toned down for the most part. Anything in the overworld is mostly toned down. Now, as for battle themes, stuff is still not that heavy on the ears, and I enjoy it a lot. But there are some good tracks. Don't get me wrong, but the music is relatively non-intrusive to the world. It feels like it belongs. Voice work-wise, the English dub is good. I don't have any problems with it, really, but I'm not, super impressed by it either. It's like a neutral thing. The game's also available in Japanese, Chinese, and Korean dub, which I've heard are pretty good, but I haven't really tested those because I just haven't really been into it, or not in the mood to test it. And the lip syncing in the English dub needs some work, but I'm not sure if it matches up in the Japanese, Chinese, or Korean dubs instead. That might be a problem in that field and not in the actual, and not the fault of like the developers per se, or the animators, you know. Now, here is the bad gacha rates. And oh god, the gacha rates in this game are awful. You do not need to ever use the gacha. The rates are really bad, even in comparison to some other gacha games. I only have one to go off of, but you know, it's kind of rough. Now, my background on gacha games is that I've played a few. Not really a huge fan of them, so I will explain this in terms of the only game I know well, which is Fire Emblem Heroes. Now, other games I know of, and have played a little bit of, Puzzles and Dragons, Grand Blue Fantasy, Mario Kart Tour, Pokemon Masters. All of these games I probably quit in about 30 minutes to an hour of playtime. Except Grand Blue. Grand Blue I think I played maybe 4 or 5 hours, and then I decided I didn't want to play it anymore. Let's compare the rates. That's Genshin, right? You got a 1%, less than a 1% chance for a 5-star unit, a 5% chance on a 4-star unit, and a 94% chance on 3-star. That's insane. That is absolutely insane, because I'm about to show you Fire Emblem Heroes rates. Boop. There it is. Fire Emblem Heroes is a lot different in this regard. It's got a 58% chance for a 4-star, which is higher than the 36% chance for a 3-star, which I don't know if that's unique to Fire Emblem Heroes, but anyways, the thing that really matters is that getting a 5-star in general has a 6% chance. Getting a 5-star specifically from the banner, the featured units on the banner, is its own 3% chance. Now, here's the thing. Which of these looks more enticing to spend any currency on? I think it's pretty obvious. But now let's get into a little something extra. There's a pity system in Genshin and Fire Emblem Heroes, and I'm going to compare the two right now. Now, in Genshin, every time you do 10 summons, you throw 160 Primo Gems at a banner, you're guaranteed, after you do it 10 times, you're guaranteed a 4-star unit or weapon. If you do 90 summons in Genshin, you are guaranteed a 5-star unit. If you're on a banner with featured content, the second 5-star you get, so at most 180 summons, you are guaranteed the item or unit that is featured on that banner. I hope that makes sense to people, because it's kind of hard to explain in words. That doesn't sound too bad, right? But thinking about it this way, a 1 summon is 160 Primo Gems, so 10 summons is 1600, and 90 summons is a hell of a lot more than that. It's pretty high. It's a pretty high cost for one unit, for one guaranteed 5-star. Now, Fire Emblem Heroes is a little different. Every 5 summons, the rate of 5-star and 5-star focus increases by 0.5% total, meaning that 3% will jump to 3.25% on both the 5-star chance and the 5-star focus chance, which bumps up the full rate to 6.5. And after 40 summons, if you are on a banner featuring brand new characters that are not special, that are not specially limited time characters, you can choose the desired 5-star character of those 4 or 3 that you want. That is actually a much better system than Genshin's system. Now, I'm not going to rag too much on Genshin's system because you can find that anywhere. But it's not great. It's really not that great. Now, moving on. Co-op play. This exists in the game, and I say exists, it just kinda is there. It's very limited. What you can do is you can do daily quests, you can explore the world, you can play domains, which are dungeons, and you can fight bosses. But player 2 cannot open chests, cannot collect collectibles, and they cannot talk to NPCs. It is a disaster in regards to how little player 2, 3, and 4 cannot do in your world. And co-op removes the ability to do a lot of quests as well. And what I want to say is, the biggest problem with co-op, you can't play story or side quests together. Are you serious? Like, I just don't get it. It feels like co-op is an afterthought to the developers, which is fine, but you couldn't have advertised it differently. I feel like that's the big thing here, is that I feel like I'm let down by how little there is to do in co-op. So we want to talk about the verdict for this game. It's free to play. Just go play it. The combat's fun. The open world is super fun to explore. There's lots of collectibles, flashy combat, lots of playable characters if you can get them. The gacha sucks. Alright, I just would not recommend really pouring any money into it until it gets better, maybe. But if you want to, I will not stop you, because you can use your money however you want. And if you want me to be honest, it's free. Try it out. If you don't like it, you can quit. There are no repercussions for doing that. Just don't spend until you're sure you want to keep playing this game. Alright? And my final arbitrary number score is a solid 8 out of 10. Spend responsibly. This game could be a 9, or could be a 10, if it really pushes making the game friendlier to players. There are a lot of limitations in the system for people who like to play these types of games all the time, and I know Genshin is new to this era of, or it's a new concept. It really hasn't been done before, but you need to appeal to the player base that is part of the PC and PS4 communities, which are very different from the mobile game communities. You gotta appeal to them in more ways. Give us more things to do. It doesn't have to grant us, or not more things to do. There's tons of content in the game you can already do without worrying about spending and the stamina system, but you need to give us at least a better stamina system. It's that, or you implement something people can do besides explore the open world that doesn't cost stamina, that still lets us get resources to a degree. Just a little bit of variety. I think it's one or the other, personally, if you don't want the game kind of fading out of existence. But I hope this game stays around for a long time, because I'm really enjoying it. Thanks for watching.